Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Super Dandori Bros Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Leighton, and with me I have Ryan.
Yep, that's me.
Yep.
I'm here again.
He's still here.
Shocker.
I know.
Shocker of shockers.
Can't lose him.
Yeah.
And
Can't get rid of me that easy.
No. Well, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
Today, we just wanted to quickly go over our thoughts on the latest Nintendo Direct, the Donkey Kong Bananza Direct. And it was, I don't want to spoil too much of my thoughts, but I will say I was pretty positive about it after seeing it. I wasn't sure what to expect going in. But yeah, Ryan, what were your thoughts going, actually, let's say, I want to know what your thoughts were going into the Direct first before we got,
Yeah. So I think of all the stuff that was shown, it's really funny because I consider myself to be a Metroid fan, but of all the stuff that was shown in the Switch 2 Direct, like of all of it, I was like most interested in Donkey Kong Bananza. And I have been most interested in that game, even more so than Prime 4, which is really bizarre. Like, I do want to play Prime 4, but Bonanza I thought was like kind of interesting looking. And I think also because we have a release date that made it, a little bit easier to look forward to.
True.
But I was pretty positive going into it. I knew, like, already it was going to be one of those things where, like, it's only a matter of time before I get it. Like, do I get it day one or do I get it, a few months in? I don't know. But so I was pretty positive and kind of interested in learning more about it. Some of the stuff that was shown, which we'll talk about a bit later, but story-wise, had already been leaked by Nintendo of Korea, I believe. Mm-hmm. But so that didn't really surprise me, and I figured we were going to either learn more about it in the Direct, or it was going to, supposed to be like a late game plot twist or something. But pretty clearly, it's pretty early on. But overall, like, I was really positive going into it, and yeah, I'm more than happy to sort of share how I feel about it as we like break down the different stuff that was shown.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, definitely going into it, I was thinking there's got to be more like depth to this because the original demo was very much about like, just more about the destruction, right? It was kind of like, hey, Donkey Kong. Mm-hmm. Like, we all thought it was going to be a 3D Mario game. Psych, it's Donkey Kong. And it's like, oh, look, he can destroy everything. And it was very like focused very heavily on just that. And, a lot of people were like, this is fun, but I don't know how much fun I'm going to get out of just breaking stuff. And I'm like, I just knew in the back of my head, like, there's going to be way more depth to this than just punching stuff. And sure enough, we get to the Direct, and it's like, it's definitely like Nintendo's flair of like just adding way more variety than you expect.
I was actually kind of surprised by some of the stuff that they added, which we'll talk about later. I was sort of the opposite. I figured that, yeah, there were going to be parts of the game that we hadn't seen, like different levels and like story events and whatever. But I thought that we'd pretty much seen the breadth of it, like in terms of the main gameplay mechanics, with the exception of maybe like a few like movement options, for example. So like, if you think about Mario Odyssey, which, I feel like is pretty well established at this point that, most people think that this is made by, and like people who are paying attention to the game in particular, I think it's made by at least some part of the Mario Odyssey team. And it does have a Mario Odyssey flair. Like, it's very clear that movement in Donkey Kong Bananza, even from what we saw in the original trailer, and the demo, like it was, sort of had some of the complexity of the Mario Odyssey movement, which was, at least partly the main gimmick, though, the possession mechanic in Mario Odyssey was also another component of it as well. But then you could sort of say that was like the destruction was Donkey Kong's version of that, that's the unique thing. And so some of the stuff they ended up adding on top of that was a nice surprise to me, and not something that I was really expecting, actually. But that was just me. So I feel in some ways that the scope of this could be bigger than Odyssey.
Yeah, some of the stuff still definitely caught me off guard, but I definitely had this idea that like the mechanics were there, but how they were going to implement the mechanics, I felt like there was just going to be more variety than what we thought. Like, the type of materials we would get to interact with would be different. And sure enough, that showed up in the Direct, and I'm sure there's even more materials that we haven't seen yet. But, we saw wood. We saw this weird, I almost want to call it like dry ice that just fizzles out as you like fly up, and it makes you fly. Just yeah, definitely I could see. They even showed it where you could like take soft materials and like connect and throw it and connect it together to create like platforms. So you could actually build. So I was like kind of
that was
surprised.
super cool.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I saw that and I'm like, that's actually going to be really fun.
There's gonna be some interesting gameplay mechanics with that, I'm sure. So yeah, no, that's. I guess we can get into it. I'm trying to think like from beginning to end. I off the top of my head can't remember how it started. Other than well, obviously the big reveal. I guess we should talk about was, in the original trailer, it was just Odd Rock. We're like, okay, it's a weird little buddy, but whatever. Nintendo loves their little quirky side characters. But as you alluded to earlier, Nintendo of Korea had accidentally kind of leaked that Pauline was in the game. We didn't necessarily know that Pauline was Odd Rock, but then straight off the out of the gate, Nintendo's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's Odd Rock is actually Pauline.
Yeah, and it just seems like it probably like serves some purpose in the story, but then it's like why wasn't it just Pauline from the beginning? Like if you were going to use that as a plot twist, like it does seem kind of odd to me, but maybe in the context of the full game it'll make a bit more sense.
Yeah, were you thinking like why they didn't talk about it when they originally showed like back in the direct?
Or like why even have Odd Rock at all?
Well,
like why couldn't it have just been Pauline from the beginning?
Well, it sounds to me like there's the part like she gets freed from something, and so I think that there's some backstory to, and they want to bring her back. So there's obviously she has some ability that they need. So she was captured, she got out, Donkey Kong freed her from this rock prison thing. So I think that's kind of be the story. But I also think it was kind of clever how in the original trailers it showed Donkey Kong and Odd Rock like everywhere. But then in the second, in the next, in this trailer, it shows Donkey Kong with Pauline. So they'd obviously gone back and like just changed the gameplay so that there's all this footage of Donkey Kong with Odd Rock only. Which I thought was interesting that they went to that level to hide this, even though they were going to reveal it anyway.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like if they're going to reveal it in the trailer, like to me, I just don't understand. But anyway, like Nintendo does Nintendo things, and so it's fine, doesn't really matter. But I thought it was pretty cool. Interesting that she's about 13 from what we understand. So it seems like this is in some ways, well, it is a prequel essentially to Mario Odyssey.
Yes and no. So I watched a theory about this. And so one thing that people notice, well, a couple things they notice. One, she doesn't have shoes. Two, her jeans look like they're all rolled up. And then her dress or shirt, I guess, looks like it used to be a dress that's been cut. And the theory is that she was de-aged. Like they did something to her and she's younger because she actually was an adult, but like she can't wear her shoes. Her jeans are too big and her dress was cut. Now this all could just be just some it's just a theory, right? A game theory, and
nice.
I just had to, and so I just thought that's an interesting theory, like because it could just be a prequel, or it could be something more than that. But I love the idea that they're bringing Pauline, a younger Pauline, into this, and it's just kind of I don't know, just the fact that she's an ally with Donkey Kong when normally she's always been like, being kidnapped by Donkey Kong and you're trying to rescue her. It's a very interesting dynamic.
Well, my understanding is the canon is not that Nintendo really cares about canon for most of their series, but my understanding is the canon is that with the original Donkey Kong, that Donkey Kong was actually Cranky Kong that had kidnapped Pauline.
Yeah, I've heard this. But in all the Mario versus Donkey Kong mini games, it's always Pauline with Donkey Kong in that one.
Yeah, then I don't
know. It's kind of like I think that was
like
just,
Nintendo doesn't care about canon.
I don't think they do. They probably look back like, oh, we said that. Oh, actually no, it's Donkey Kong. Sorry, we messed up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was like at one point Cranky Kong was Donkey Kong's grandpa, and now he's like his dad. Like there's that whole like thing that never got cleared up, but like. Who cares? Like, who cares? The only Nintendo, like the very like strict, and it's not even that strict, but like the strictest canon is that Nintendo has is Metroid.
Yeah,
that is easily the strictest one. And then beyond that, it would probably be either like Fire Emblem or Zelda.
Well, Zelda's. It's hard to
Zelda's pretty loose, but there's like a timeline, you know what I mean?
Even then, the timeline's pretty messed up. I think they did that just to kind of appease people, but now with Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild, like I don't even know if Nintendo's really keeping track of it. They're just throwing stuff like, yeah, that'll fit right there. I don't even think they really care where it fits in the timeline.
No, I agree. But that's like the closest thing.
Yeah,
like
I
that,
agree.
which is really interesting and sets Metroid apart. And it's probably Sakamoto's influence that does that.
Yeah, for sure. So probably why Nintendo doesn't put a lot of effort into it, because it's like, oh, it has canon and lore. Oh no, never mind.
No, must rewrite lore of Pikmin.
Right? Yeah, that was just about to bring up Pikmin 4 and how that just completely got rewritten. So, yeah, I wouldn't get too caught up in the lore of Donkey Kong Bonanza. I do think that Nintendo likes to just reference things. So, like, bring Pauline. Obviously, she is a character from Nintendo games, Donkey Kong, and like just these different characters. But how they interact in that world, in that story, to me, is just like it has nothing to do. Everything that they do that references old games is not to create canon. It's just to be like, it's Easter eggs. It's just, just fun things for those who have been hardcore gamers for a long time to notice. But I don't think it's designed to be like creating this, mega Donkey Kong universe that we have to keep track of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it would be a mess.
It would be. How funny would it be if they did just like pivot and they're like, you know what? Now we're going to start keeping track of Donkey Kong's lore specifically. It's going to be Metroid and Donkey Kong. Nobody cares about anyone else but those two specifically.
And it's just like this deep, like, it just starts out kind of fun and silly, and then suddenly it's like Game of Thrones level of like just, political drama, dark. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I would watch that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, have you seen the Donkey Kong, show from the 90s? It's totally...
Oh, my gosh. It's a total brain rot.
It's so bad.
It's horrible. Anyway.
Yeah, back to the
game. Back to the game.
Back to the game. So, all right, so Pauline, we've seen Pauline's, and then they go into all of the move sets, which most of them we'd already either heard about through, like, seeing people play in the demo stations, and then of course I've been following the Nintendo Now app. Is it Nintendo Today? No, Nintendo Today app. Sorry,
Nintendo Today.
Sorry, yeah. Now that's how little I know about it.
Nintendo Now rolls off the tongue. They should have called it that.
Yeah, Nintendo Today app. I wasn't really paying attention other than I'd scroll past and I'd see like, oh, yeah, they're showing another moveset, and it was always stuff I'm like, yeah, I've already seen this. The only new move I saw that was like, oh, that's new, was this where it's a chunk jump, I think is what's called. It's something where you basically throw the rock down that you're holding and it gives you extra air. I'm like, oh, okay. Everything else I think I'd seen, like as far as like just the basic move sets.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Like, and this is sort of what I mean by like the Mario Odyssey like move variety, where like there are a lot of different ways to get around as Donkey Kong, a lot of which you probably like won't use as a casual player, but if you like know what you're doing, then it looks like you could get around pretty fast and it could be really fun.
I want to see a speedrunner in this game. I really want to see how fast people can beat this game.
That'd be so funny. They're going to find like some game-breaking glitch that allows them to do arbitrary code execution the first 30 seconds and just get to the end. And it's going to be a like totally uninteresting speedrun.
I was thinking like, yeah, somehow they find a way to just keep going down, like just never stopping. Just to the final boss. Just break the whole level design. But...
yeah, what it's going to be is it's only going to be like the digital version, and it's going to be like a modified SD card that loads slower. And so then they're able to just go through the floor and just keep going down before the levels can load and get to the end. That's what it's going to be. That's
funny. Like Nintendo saw like the way people were speedrunning Breath of the Wild, like, oh, they're taking advantage of the slow load times. Like that's why we need to make, our load times way faster in the Switch too, so they can't break our games. I don't know. Pop-in's still possible on a Switch too. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But no, so the moves are cool. I love the dynamic moves. And it seemed like even... okay, so this may be cutting ahead a little bit, but there's moves that you can unlock because there's a skill tree kind of, sort of, but not really.
Yeah. It's like a skill table.
Yeah.
We talked privately. I still feel like it would have been really funny if the whole thing was just like one, like it was like a banana tree, and like you were essentially just growing bananas.
That'd be funny.
On the tree, and then like once you get like a set of them, then you get like a bunch bonus. That's what Katie and I called it. And you get like an upgrade to all of them, and they like group them together, like, oh, all the damage ones are over here and all the health ones are over here, sort of thing. And so I think that is a missed opportunity, but at the same time, I was shocked when I saw this. This is the part for me that I got really stoked about. If you couldn't tell, I like RPG mechanics. And granted, this does not make it an RPG, but it does allow you to sort of customize it as you go through. And I really like that idea. I think it's, I think it'll be pretty fun. Looking forward to it. It sort of gives you a reward for collecting what are essentially the equivalent of power moons in this, aside from just being able to go to the next level.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what Mario Odyssey was.
I see these kind of in the same vein as the upgrades in Pikmin 4, in that you don't have to get them, but obviously it makes the game easier and like just better overall, right? Like you could upgrade Ochi, or you could upgrade your suit with different stuff. And I mean, I'll be honest, there's certain upgrades I just don't get because I just don't see enough value in them. And it's probably going to, in my play style anyway, and it's going to probably be the same in Bonanza, where I'll be like, yeah, I love this. I want, better echolocation or sonar or whatever. But I don't want this power up or whatever. And so I do like the flexibility of that. And yeah, I was definitely surprised that they were adding that kind of element. Obviously, you're right. It doesn't make it an RPG, but I do like that it allows every person's playthrough to be a little different. So, which makes me wonder too in the future Mario games.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the sonar real quick, actually. I'm so glad that they have this, because I remember in the original trailer, when I saw that some of the bananas were just hidden in the rocks randomly, I was like, that's going to be an absolute pain to find. So I'm really glad that they have something to locate them. I figured there would eventually be something that would point them out, but the fact that it's sonar, I don't know, I just sort of like that better, and I think it works really well with sort of how they're presenting Donkey Kong and Pauline as a duo in this. It just like thematically works really well.
Yeah, I think it's very cohesive. Like you can tell, this is the Nintendo magic, right? They just know how to kind of meld all these ideas together into a cohesive package that, as goofy and silly as their games are, it all just feels like it's supposed to be that way. Like it all makes sense, and that's the beauty of the games. It just clicks. So yeah, I think it's that's cool. What else? There was another thing that I was very surprised by, that's somewhat RPG-like, was that, like Mario Odyssey, you can change the outfit, which was like, oh, that's cool, right? That's the same thing, just change outfit. But like this, they actually have stats for the outfits, which I was
I actually missed this.
You missed that?
Yeah.
No, each outfit actually gives you certain perks and bonuses. So
that's really cool.
That's like, now there's actually incentive to switch your outfits and play it based on the level you're in or what you're trying to do. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's good and bad, because what was fun about Mario Odyssey is you could just wear whatever you wanted and just mess around. It was kind of fun. It wasn't like, the only reason to switch outfits was like there were certain moons that you would get if you were wearing certain outfits, but that was about it. In this one, though, it is kind of cool that the outfits do actually have like different perks. Like the one they showed was like, oh, Donkey Kong wears this, he swims slightly faster. So I was like, I don't, and then might be other ones where maybe the punch is stronger, or maybe, I don't know, it takes less damage. But there's all those kinds of outfits that would be really cool. So I was like, oh wow, this is really depth stuff. And then there's item shop. So I'm curious if like certain items, kind of like in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, how there's certain items you could use to boost your attack, defense, or give you like a second health bar. I wonder if it'll kind of work in that same vein as like giving you more hearts, which I guess apparently some of the upgrades are literally like Zelda-like, in the sense that you just unlock more hearts, more health.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I think this, and I honestly think too, like everything in Nintendo, like they don't share everything. I think there's going to be just an insane amount of stuff and levels and items and things you're going to be able to do in this game. I think the final fight of this game is going to be absolutely wild.
I kind of hope that we get to at some point fight a brainwashed Funky Kong. I would really. That's what I'm really hoping for.
That would be fun.
I don't know if we'll ever get to do that, but it does make me wonder. Like, so we've seen, and this, I guess, this sort of like ties into like stuff that essentially like going off of things that we don't know are in the game. Like one of the questions is Diddy Kong in the game, or the other Kong besides like Cranky Kong?
We know that Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong in there.
We do know that?
Oh yeah, they're in the trailer.
They are? Oh, I missed it. Okay.
Yeah, they're
apparently there's a lot. Apparently there's a lot I missed.
Yeah, no, I've kind of watched a lot of I've watched it a few times because my kids love it, And yeah, there's a whole scene where like they're at like they're at some desk or something, and it shows like in the tutorial they're just standing. And then I guess there's also another scene where you see them, you're racing them on a, like they're on Rambi and you're on another Rambi or whatever, and like so you're racing against them. So yeah, they're definitely in the game. Like,
okay, awesome.
So I think what most people want to know is Candy Kong in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all want to know that. I had never seen the ending to Donkey Kong 64 until just like a few months ago, and then when I actually saw it, I'm like, that's crazy that actually existed.
Yeah, Rare was
and
wild.
then yeah, and then I asked Katie because she owned the game as a kid, and she's like, yeah, I never got to the end.
She didn't know.
No, she still hasn't beaten it. She still hasn't.
It's a hard game. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of collectibles in that, and this definitely feels like it's got a lot of collectibles, but it definitely feels more manageable. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this could be definitely like a game that could take a while to get everything like to 100%. So, but
absolutely, and hopefully like not as mind numbing as a lot of the Mario Odyssey moons, where it's like you just buy them essentially.
Well, I guess there are some because you get those bananium chips, I guess, and so you do buy certain bananas.
Well, yeah, but you know, hopefully that's not like a vast majority of them. You know what I mean?
Right. I think a lot of them you're going to find just in different places. Plus, I like that they showed like there's certain like little mini levels that you go to. And so that'll be kind of fun, like with more objective-based things than just break everything and find stuff. It's like actually like, you know, complete puzzles and, you know, fight certain enemies and, you know, just time-based stuff or just, you know, I don't know. I just think that's nice. It kind of breaks things up. It's the same thing with Pikmin I liked, where it's like you're going around, there's all this stuff to do in the overworld, but then you have, you know, the underground stuff that you would do. And there's always, it was either like a whole, you know, gosh, there's the Dandori battles. There was the there's 3 different versions of going underground in Pikmin 4. What were they again? Remind me.
I mean, there were the caves, there were the Dandori challenges, and then there were the Dandori battles.
Yeah, it's right. Challenge, battle, and then the caves. That's right. And that's what I feel like in this. It'll be kind of similar where you go underground and there'll just be more. So that would kind of help break it up so it doesn't feel super repetitive. Just run around, break everything, find bananas.
Yeah, I mean, but that sounds great. Like,
oh, it does. But I mean,
I guess
like,
more variety is good.
Yeah, I just think that it'll be interesting, the type of like level design and how I'll be very curious too, like how the level design plays out too, because everything's breakable. So obviously, like most Nintendo platformers are built around like very, very tight, like well designed, you know, platforming, and you know, and Nintendo encourages you to kind of, you know, experiment. You look at the people playing Odyssey, and they're doing things I don't think even Nintendo expected people to do. And I would be interested to see how the level design works when, like I said, you can just break anything you want. That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Like, and also, can that prevent you from getting certain things in the world if you like are too careless?
Yeah. Do we know whether or not the levels reset? Like, let's say you go down a level and then you come back up. Do we know whether or not like everything resets or
I don't know, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say probably.
I think so too, because otherwise you could just like sit there and literally destroy everything, and like the NPCs that are there just fall through the map. Like, there's got to be a bedrock layer or something. Like, there's got to be some sort of failsafe, I would think.
I just think that's hilarious because you just made me think like, okay, like Cranky Kong just sitting there and you just like break everything underneath him and just get him to fall down. Like that's okay. That's my new number 1 objective now when I get the game.
You just, as soon as you do that, you're like, all right, I'm done.
Yep,
this is a good game.
I want to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, the game. What else is there? I think we talk about, you know, the RPG elements, right? The level design. Oh, let's talk about the transformations. That was another one that caught me off guard.
That was really cool. Yeah, so that was another one that I really liked. I'm glad that there are multiple. I'm hoping that there are more than just the 3 that we saw in the trailer. But even if it is just the 3, like, I would be fine with that. It's a pretty good variety.
It kind of covers all your bases because you've got speed, flight, and strength. I'm not saying there
Mm-hmm.
could be more, but it does seem like it's a very versatile set of skills that allow you to
Yeah,
kind of get around.
the only thing I could imagine is if there's like an underwater like level, if there was like one that allowed you to like swim really
Oh, it
fast, you
turns into
know?
the swordfish.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure there's a name for all of them, but because most of them are
I
all
have no
based on.
idea.
Well, the zebra I don't think was in previous Donkey Kongs, was it? I don't remember. I know
I
the
have
ostrich
no
was.
idea, dude. I've
Uh,
never played a Donkey Kong game.
really?
I've played some demos. Like I played the Donkey Kong Country Returns HD demo, and
Hmm.
then like I played like 2 seconds of Donkey Kong 64 before I was like, okay, I'm done.
I never played
And Katie
60.
kept playing it.
I never played 64, but I did play a lot of the Donkey Kong Country games. Not the and I have Tropical Freeze. I actually don't have Country Returns, even though I
Oh,
could
really?
because both of those are on Switch. But I actually have Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze on the Wii U. But I haven't beat it. Yeah, I've never really been a super. I don't know why. People tell me that the Tropical Freeze is one of the best platformers out there, and I just
Mm-hmm.
struggle with it. But for some reason, like just the way this game is set up, I'm actually just really excited to try it out. Maybe because it is more Mario Odyssey like, so you can tell they're really doing like this big. I don't want to call it a rebrand, but kind of a big rebranding of Donkey Kong with his look, the style of game. Like they're really trying to like make him like a big star of Nintendo.
Yeah, it's like that's super interesting to me because like ever since because I like started mostly playing Nintendo games like I would say around the GameCube era. That was really the first Nintendo console I owned. Aside from Game Boy Color, which at that point I had it for like Pokemon, right, and that's it. So like the first time I played like a Mario game really was in the GameCube era. Obviously that's when I got into Pikmin, Metroid, etc. And so, like, to me, Donkey Kong, like, just looking at the Smash Brothers Melee lineup, because that's when I really got exposed to it, like, Donkey Kong to me always seemed like one of the least interesting, like, IPs. And so, if I was Nintendo and I'm like, oh yeah, I wanna, like, rebrand one of them, I guess Donkey Kong in some ways makes sense then because he to me was least interesting, but at the same time like he never really seemed like he had a lot of potential or at least as much as some of the other IPs, but I don't know, this is really changing my mind. Like I'm honestly kind of stoked for this.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially because it feels like there's. I don't want to call it a deep story, right? But I mean, it definitely feels like there's a bit of a story. I could kind of see this because like Nintendo's kind of really tying in their branding now between their movies and well, it's just a movie, but I definitely feel like there's some cohesion they're trying to put together, right? Like as far as like things they reference in the movie, now they're gonna try put in games and vice versa. So I could see bringing Pauline and making Donkey Kong like this. I could see a lot of this now playing into the next movies they do, especially if they do a
Mm-hmm.
Donkey Kong specific movie, which I think Nintendo wants to do. Especially because they're making a Donkey Kong a big part of their theme parks too, which is another aspect of their IP. So I'm really curious to see where they go with this. And the fact that yeah, like you said, you and I, who are not really big Donkey Kong people, suddenly are like, this game looks really interesting and fun. Like that's a huge thing. That's a huge plus for Nintendo to kind of build their IP library and make people want to play it. Like that's kind of what happened with Tears of the Kingdom and I should say Breath of the Wild. Is it was because people don't realize Zelda was a popular franchise, but it still didn't sell that well. Like
Mm-hmm.
Twilight Princess was their best selling one, but that was a bit of a fluke because it was the launch on the Wii. Skyward Sword did terribly, and
Yeah.
most of the other games did terribly. But Breath of the Wild sold so many copies, it really almost kind of in a way put Zelda on the map for a lot of people. And I think that's what this
Mm-hmm.
game will do for Donkey Kong. Yeah.
Probably one of the things that I was wondering about, and I've been wondering this for some time, specifically since we got the Switch 1 reveal. Or sorry, not Switch 1, Switch 2 like first reveal like back in what, January?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that feels so long ago. Um so obviously that was when we got the first look at the rebrand in Donkey Kong aside from the movie. Because like the movie clearly had like a different art style from the games anyway. So like I don't really count that. But like when we got the like look at Donkey Kong in Mario Kart, That was pretty interesting. That was also the same day that the Donkey Kong, if I remember correctly, wasn't it the same day that the
Country Returns
Donkey
came out
Kong?
for
Yeah,
Switch.
there was that, and then I'm trying to remember when the theme park edition opened up in Osaka. I'm trying to remember when that was. I can't. It might have been the same day, but I may be wrong about that. But regardless, it was around the same time. I'm wondering because the assets that I've seen from that are using old DK design, and so my question is like, do they just? And I mean, there's no way that you and I can like verify this because we're not getting on a plane to Osaka anytime soon. But like, are they going to at some point transition over like the theme park stuff to use the new Donkey Kong design? I imagine they will at some point.
I'm surprised
like,
it
I'm
didn't
just wondering.
start with that
Like
since the movie's been out for a while.
And that was sort of like my point is like why like okay if you like have everything out, like why not just start with the new stuff since it's around the same time anyway? And it wasn't like they were trying to hide it, even in the Switch the original Switch, Mario Kart thing, like, oh, let's have a different Donkey Kong, they were using the new stuff. So like to me that just seems like the odd one out with their theme park. So I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah. I don't know. They've definitely got some plan, but I think because most people who are familiar with Donkey Kong are familiar with the other games, they wanted to kind of ease them in. But I could see them, and like a lot of stuff they have there doesn't necessarily conflict with this version of Donkey Kong because he is different. But I think Donkey Kong himself is really the main one that's changed. Everyone else seems to be fairly similar. And they still reference a lot of the old DK stuff, even in this. Like some of the side-scrolling levels they showed definitely reference the old Donkey Kong Country. So I don't think Nintendo's like trying to erase that history as if it's like, yeah, we're done. We didn't like that. No, I think they're proud of it. They just kind of want to start heading in a more market-friendly version of Donkey Kong. I do think this design, I know it's controversial for a lot of people, but I would say that I think just from a marketing standpoint, this version of Donkey Kong is much more marketable than the old version, the rare version. He's more friendly, more emotive, more expressive. I don't know. I just think that this will probably give it a game, maybe a generation or so. Like it will become a much easier thing for Nintendo to market. He'll be easier to market than the old rare version.
Yeah, I like he's already grown on me to the point where I'm like, yeah, I just kind of like this new version better.
Yeah.
Specifically because of the like how expressive he is now. Because like previous Donkey Kong is like, okay, he's just kind of a stupid, monkey, whatever, like gorilla. And I'm just like, okay. Like that there's not much there. Whereas now it's like, oh, okay, like they are clearly trying to give him a personality, like they're trying to make him a little bit more interesting. And so that like that to me is already a plus.
Yeah, 100%. And he kind of, it's funny because now with the power of the Switch 2, I feel like we're going to see a lot more of these games where they kind of have a almost like animated movie vibe to them. Like Pauline is also like another character that I was watching. They actually did like in the Nintendo Today app, had like a whole video just dedicated to different expressions of Pauline, which I thought was very interesting. So I looked at that and it's like, I just feel like they're flexing on like their animation and stuff just in their games alone. You look at the way the characters animate and move, and they've done this for a while, even like Mario Odyssey, definitely in Mario Kart World. They definitely like every single character in that is incredibly detailed in their animations and movement. They're way more fluid, like the way they just bounce. They just have a little bit, just have more animated quality to them. And I could see Nintendo kind of leaning into that more, especially now that they're in the movie business, that they kind of want to meld the world of like, yeah, our games feel like you're playing the movie, even though they're not necessarily like making a Mario game that is literally like looks exactly like the movie, but their characters now just feel more animated because that they're so detailed. And that's really the only direction to go now, is not to make them more hyper detailed, but to make them feel more like a movie, like animated movies. So, yeah, I do like the new DK look. It's grown on me a lot, and I think it's here to stay. And it's funny too, because we're like acting like it's new, but actually he's way more accurate to his original design, if anything.
Yeah.
So he's come out of his teen phase and he's becoming more mature.
Yeah, apparently. No, and it looks really good. I'm excited to play it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we that was shown in the direct that we haven't really. Oh, actually, there is one thing. So they showed off the like obligatory asymmetrical co-op mode.
Oh yeah.
And I like obviously, this is the sort of thing that is in line with what Nintendo's been doing for a lot of games, and for Pikmin 4 in particular is sort of what it reminds me of, especially with the mouse controls. And it is just sort of like aiming in the way that you do with Pikmin 4, which like tells me that Pikmin 4's co-op like is probably just going to use mouse controls once it finally once we finally get a Switch 2 version. But I guess like my question for you is like, obviously there's going to be a huge difference in terms of the second player experience from the first player. Does that look like it? I think it's designed for kids. Like, let's just be real. It's like designed for kids. Do you feel like that's something that your kids would enjoy doing?
I think so, especially the younger ones. I know my oldest would probably just want to play the game. But he'd probably enjoy it to a certain extent. And it's funny, I was actually thinking about this a lot and how this could almost be like its own subject, but like how Nintendo has this, I don't want to call it obsession, but like they have so many games that have this very similar mechanic of like second player has this very minor assist mode, like with Pikmin, or like even in Mario Galaxy, it was like a second pointer. And
Mario Odyssey, like you were flying the hat around. So it's not quite the same, but it is an asymmetrical co-op thing. Luigi's Mansion 3 had the co-op was way better in that because it essentially was a second Luigi.
Yeah. I never actually played that nice. One. I mean, played the game, but I never did the co-op version of that. But yeah, Nintendo kind of dabbles. I think they like to have some form of co-op, and I kind of wonder if it's for people like me who are like, hey, we know you like Nintendo games, you're going to play this, but we want your kids to enjoy it too. So here's a mode where you can allow your kids to play with you if they struggle with, playing the game. Because if your kids are a certain age, it's like they'll just play the game. But if you have younger kids, Nintendo's like, well, we want them to be able to be exposed to our properties and be, excited for Nintendo games too. So it's clever and it's fun. And I kind of like that it's not just point and click. It's like there's actually a little bit of depth to it where you can actually like highlight certain materials on the map and then you get to shoot those materials. So like you could shoot the gold, or you could shoot the exploding bits, or you could shoot rock or mud, or so like there is a little bit of dynamicness to that. It is funny that you're shooting words.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of
I thought that was pretty good.
It's kind of funny, a little silly but funny, and I'm sure I'll try it out, especially because it has the mouse mode, so that'll be kind of easy for the kids to understand. So
yeah, the other group that I feel like that's actually pretty good for are like spouses or like partners that don't play video games, and it's like, hey, you want to play this with me? You can click stuff, like as if you were on Facebook on like a PC. Isn't that fun?
Yeah. I think definitely Nintendo loves the idea of making the system feel like it's a cooperative, like shared experience. And I mean, hence, like you look at the Switch, we kind of, even though I don't use this feature very often, it is something they promoted a lot with the Switch 1, was the idea that you have two controllers at all times on this system. You can hand a controller to another person and you can both play. And I think with this, it's almost a little bit better because, the mouse control is, you don't feel quite as handicapped. So, that's Nintendo definitely wants to encourage people to play together. I think it's kind of cool that they did that. They also had the assist mode, which is just basically make the game easier for those who, are struggling. Like my children might need that mode. So, one thing we also didn't cover up that much was the villains.
Oh yeah.
And
the three more Kongs. I don't even remember. It was one of them Grumpy Kong.
It was Grumpy Kong.
Yeah, it was Grumpy Kong. I like that one.
Who was the girl Kong was? I don't try to remember her name now. I had it written down here. Anyway, and then there was Void Kong was the big baddie. So
is it really Void Kong?
Oh, Poppy Kong. That's what it was. Yeah, Void Kong is the king. He's the leader, and then because Void Co is the name of the villainous group, Void Kong, Grumpy Kong, Poppy Kong. So Poppy Kong's like intel, Grumpy Kong makes all the big bosses and stuff, and then Void Kong's just the leader. There might be more. I think it'd be interesting because I know a lot of people are like, we want King K. Rool back, and I'm like, I don't know if we're getting him back. It'd be kind of, I almost, one part of me would be cool if he was secretly in this game, but the other part of me is like, I don't want him to pull a Twilight Princess where it's like Zant is this really cool bad guy, and then oh nope, it's actually just Ganondorf.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat. It's like it would be kind of cool to get King K. Rool, but at the same time, well, but the thing is my understanding with a lot of the more recent ones is that he hasn't been in the game. So in some ways, like, it does make sense for him to come back for this. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you, like, well, but if we're going on off of Mario Odyssey, like, the Brutals sort of would fill the role that we're seeing with Void Kong for now. So, or sorry, Voidco for now. So it's like, okay, like, I don't know. It's probably nothing that we could really predict with all that much certainty. But if I had to put my money on it, I would guess that King K. Rool is in it in some, form. I think he's probably the big bad, but I truly don't know, but that would be my guess.
It'd be a really nice surprise for a lot of people. I mean, it'd be like kind of like the Depths was for Tears of the Kingdom. I'd love for there to be like just this whole side of this game that they just don't talk about. And then you play the game and you're just, very pleasantly surprised. So
see, I was hoping it was going to be like a space program. Like just randomly a Kerbal Space Program built into the game, but it's Donkey Kong. That was my bet.
Speaking of random modes built into games, did you saw the 3D modeler function, like little art?
Yeah, it was so weird,
so random, but it's kind of like the equivalent to like Mario 64, face manipulator kind of thing, or even Mario 64 DS. If people ever played that, you could like draw and like do weird physics and manipulation. And so this is kind of like just the next evolution of that, but now you have mouse control, so you can like do 3D modeling and do just all these crazy things with it. I think we're going to see some really weird creation.
Degenerate stuff.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But
everyone's thinking the same thing.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it was a funny little add-on they put in there. So.
Yeah, that looks like it'll be fun. One more thing I'd like to touch on, because I think we're nearing the end of this, aren't we?
Yeah.
So this is the second major Switch release, and it's the second one that's gotten a dedicated direct. So I guess we could spend a little bit of time. What do you think the chances are that most releases, or at least many more this time around, this generation, are going to get individual game showcases like this labeled directs? You know what I mean?
It's hard to say, because as part of me would be like, oh, it'd be cool if they all did, but I just can't see Kirby Air Riders getting its own direct, or Age of Imprisonment getting its own direct. I could see a game like Metroid Prime 4 getting its own direct, just because it's a game that kind of needs to be marketed more. It was funny how you mentioned earlier how you kind of were actually more excited for this than Metroid Prime 4, and I think that's because Nintendo themselves aren't acting that excited for Metroid Prime 4, which is kind of a bit of a downer, because it makes you feel like there's something wrong with the game and they don't want to really talk about it. And even though it was
that would be so disappointing.
It was the most talked about PNG of 2017.
Yeah.
And then they canceled, they got new developers because the original idea was canned. And then it was the end, trailer end for one of the directs. And then, it was a big piece of the Switch 1 direct right before the Switch 2. But yeah, I just feel like they're just not making a big deal about it. But I think they need a direct for it, because they need to kind of get people excited for this game. But I think they're just trying to get through the initial launch. They got the systems out. They got Mario Kart World out. Now they're getting Bonanza out. Those are two dedicated Switch 2 games they wanted to get out. Then they're going to start focusing on these Switch 2 edition games. So the main ones being Prime 4 and Pokemon ZA, which I'm actually a lot more excited for now that I've seen the upgrades they did for Scarlet and Violet. So I think ZA might actually be really good.
I'm not going to hold my breath, but that's just me.
Which
is wild, because even just a few years ago, it was yeah, I'm going to get whatever Pokemon game comes out because I'm really enjoying them. And then I actually thought the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl actually was a lot better than most people gave it credit for. And of course, Arceus I think is the best modern Pokemon game.
Yeah, which is why I want to give the benefit of the doubt for this one, because it's another Legends game. And I know it's wildly different, but when they do things that are like breaking away from the mold, it's like that's when it's actually kind of fun and interesting to me versus just the generic same old pattern. So we'll see. I'm very curious to see how the combat goes in game. Anyway, we're talking about directs though. I could see more of these happening, especially with some of their major releases. Like the next big Mario game will probably definitely have one. The next Zelda game will probably have one. Animal Crossing, next Animal Crossing would definitely have one. Splatoon probably to some extent will have its own, because those are Nintendo's big franchises. Whether they'll do a dedicated Pikmin one, maybe. It's kind of earned its way up the ranks, but is it its own direct worthy? I don't know. Like, I think it is, but whether Nintendo thinks it is like a whole nother argument.
Yeah,
but I mean,
if they
Donkey Kong
if we get competitive ranked Dandori battles, absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely need that. That's gonna raise Pikmin above Fortnite. You just know it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Could you imagine Pikmin in Fortnite?
Oh my gosh, that'd be so weird.
That'd be terrible.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. This was definitely a direct that, like, the Mario Kart World Direct was like kind of a bummer to me. Like, it was very like not a lot of new information. We kind of were going thinking this is going to justify the price tag, and it didn't really feel like it. I think the game's still really good now that I have it in my hands. $80 is very like a by person basis on value. I think it's worth it only because I know I'm going to get insane amount of hours worth of value out of it. And because it's at launch, I know I'll get that value. If it came out like halfway or more through the Switch's, lifespan, then maybe I'd be a little bit more annoyed. But, being a launch title, I know I'll get my money's worth out of it. But then this direct came along, and I think this direct was the opposite of that. It absolutely helped sell me on this game. It justified the game's existence. It justified being a direct because it shared a lot of new information and really was just very well put together.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Like, I thought this was a much better direct, because we've talked about Mario Kart World. I think there's just more here to show than with Mario Kart World. Like, Mario Kart World, the way that the content's designed is like, it's just like you just sort of like play it. Like, it's not like the kind of content that's easy to showcase. You know what I mean? Because it's like you run around and there are just a bunch of missions to do. It would be like if you made a compilation of all the Korok puzzles for Tears of the Kingdom. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, fine, whatever. Which, granted, there's more variety in Mario Kart World. I get that. It's an unfair comparison. But my point is that there's more to show with Donkey Kong Bananza than there is with Mario Kart World. And I think that is what makes it a better direct.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, in some ways I almost feel like Donkey Kong Bonanza looks more like an $80 game to me than World. But, if World has substantial post-launch content, whatever, blah, 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 we've talked about it before.
Yeah, and that's my thought, is it's going to be more content later on the road, but we'll see. But yeah, I agree. Bonanza definitely feels like, but it's also because it's a Mario Kart sells, so they're not worried about the $80. Donkey Kong's kind of like, he's not a new franchise, but what they're doing with him is so different and new that they're probably a little bit concerned about having a high price for his game. Mm-hmm. So you can tell the pricing is going to be a lot more variable based on what Nintendo thinks people will spend versus what the game's actually worth. Yeah. Hence why Prime 1 Remaster was $40.
Yeah, that's still so crazy. I mean, I'm glad. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't necessarily want to pay more than I have to, but that is such a good game. Like, it's kind of a shame that it appears to look devalued. You know what I mean? Like, it's like it is an extremely well made remake. Well, not remake, remaster.
Yeah, but but apparently didn't sell super well despite the low price. I think Nintendo, unfortunately, knows more than we do when it comes to the sales and marketing on this stuff. But as long as they keep making this is going to sound so silly to me, or silly to everyone else too, but like, I almost am like spending more on like the popular games like Mario Kart World, so that Nintendo has enough money to keep making games like Metroid that don't sell well. Yeah. Like, for people like me, like, keep making the games that don't sell amazing, but I'm subsidizing it with the games that do sell really well.
It's essentially the Hollywood Oscar bait model.
Yeah.
Where it's like they do make a bunch of Avengers films like just to bring in the money so they can make a bunch of crap.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. I mean, the Metroid I wouldn't compare to that, but
no, but it is a similar model where it's like, yeah, we'll make really good games or like higher quality supposedly. And granted, this is where the comparison divulges certainly. But Metroid, Pikmin, etc., like really, really good games don't sell well. Please keep making them though.
Yep.
Except for Other M, though I am still an Other M apologist.
Yeah. We need an Other M remaster. So
yeah, absolutely.
No, don't change it. Just remaster it. It's perfect.
Yeah, put retro behind it, but make sure you keep all the original like voice acting like audio files too. Oof. Like make sure that that's exactly the same.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us. That's going to be a little shorter podcast, but that's because we just really wanted to cover the Donkey Kong Direct. It's we're really excited for it. It's not too far away now, only a few weeks away, so we'll be looking forward to trying that out.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm going to be out of town for a while at the time, so I'm going to leave the Switch 2 here, and Katie will probably play it before me. But when I return, then I'll get to play it, and we'll see what I think.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. Well, that's it for today. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Super Dandori Bros. If you like this, subscribe, leave a like, and leave us a comment. We just love to get some feedback from you guys, know what you think of the podcast, and any suggestions for future, things you want us to talk about. And
even if you just want to tell me how wrong I am, please. I like to hear this.
I love seeing you talk about how wrong Ryan is. It just makes my day. So
I have the worst opinions. Please tell me.
Please, he really needs this. No.
Yes, absolutely.
So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I'm Leighton. He's Ryan, and we'll talk to you again next time. Bye.
See ya.